Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Mavericks After Dark. I'm Kirk Henderson, joined as always by Josh Bowe. It's a little after midnight now on Sunday, November 26th. Josh, how you doing?
Doing okay. It's the West Coast start, double whammy of West Coast start plus crappy game. I have a feeling this is going to be a grumpy podcast.
Well, you know, it's funny
if we're gonna stay up this late and you have to watch a bad game, that's just that's not a lot of fun.
It's funny because the Mavericks got sort of a little bit of a blessing in the fact that they played on Wednesday, but then before that they had 2 full days off. Then they had 2 more days off, Thursday, Friday, and then they play on Saturday. So they really, 3 games in 7 days is about the usual. But over the course of a year, there's a lot of 4 games. There's a lot of 5 games in 7 nights type deals. There's a lot of like 8 games in 12 nights type situations where there's just a bit of a relentless grind to the NBA season. So the Mavericks they've had some interesting schedule breaks, in my opinion, to a degree, at least in terms of days off. And, they played like shit in that Los Angeles game. I didn't get a chance to join the show because I was having just which
Los Angeles game? You have to.
I didn't have a chance to join after the Lakers game because my night was basically mirrored by like the Mavericks fourth quarter, just like a comedy of errors. And then I called it and asked Josh to run a show by himself. But that fourth quarter plus these 4 quarters here against the Clippers, the Mavericks scored 101 points in 60 minutes of basketball. There's a lot we could talk about in this game, and I'm kind of curious as to where we might go because the things that I want to talk about in relation to this game don't actually have to do with the game itself. It's been enough games. It's been enough. The Mavericks, what's their win-loss right now? They're 10-6.
Yep.
10-6 is pretty damn good. 10-6 is amazing, really.
Yeah.
But I'm still frustrated by a few things, and I want to kind of talk about. I think I need to withhold my tongue until we get through some of the things that actually matter first. So where do you think we should start tonight? Because the Mavericks lost 107-88. Probably it was easily their worst offensive performance of the season. There's going to be folks that are, and I can already see, they're just going to have bad shooting nights. I mean, that's true, but there was more to it than that. What do you think, Josh? I'll let you kick this off.
Yeah, I think what's really disappointing about this game is that, yes, the Mavericks had a bad shooting night. The Clippers had a bad shooting night. The Clippers were 8 of 29 on threes, which is not good. They were 3 of 12 in mid-range, which the Clippers, since they have Kawhi Leonard, since Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, they've been a huge mid-range team. But
yeah, they're playing the second night of a back-to-back, right?
Yeah, you're right. They were. So they were 11 of 41 on jumpers. That's 27%, and the Mavericks still lost. By 19. And we're down by 20 for most of the second half. So the Clippers didn't even really have their A game, and the Mavericks still were not competitive for long stretches of this game. So I think it's what it just speaks to is the fact that the Mavericks are kind of what we've seen so far is they're a one-trick pony. That one trick is really good when it's working, which is basically looking like the best offense in the history of basketball. But that's the only way this team can win games right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, I was talking with our fellow staffer, Matthew, where he was like, this is just one of those games they lost because they couldn't shoot. And I was like, you could say that about all of their games because that's literally the only way that they can win is if
for like 3 years now. And it's so funny because Jason Kidd joined the Mavericks, and one of the first things he said as coach was he essentially said they needed to stop shooting so many threes. And in every year since, I'm pretty sure they're shooting more threes with each passing season. And that's fine. Like that's the
roster that they've built.
That's the roster that they built. So it's not like a slight at Kidd or anything like it's just it's a very peculiar way to where they've ended up. And I there's so many areas, and one of my main challenges is like sort of figuring out the wellspring, at least with this one game, is what problems beget the other problems. So it's like I was chatting with one fan before the game who told me he's just really sick and tired of watching Luka play like this. And my response was, Luka didn't start out the game like this. He hurt his hand, and then no other Maverick could make a shot. I mean, you go look at the box score tonight, and there's like a real element of last year's Mavs and the year before Mavs. I mean, Grant Williams and Derek Jones Jr. combined for how many points? 4, 5?
6?
5 points.
5 points. Okay.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Wait, no, they combined for 9 points.
9 points.
Fouls.
Fouls,
okay.
My bad.
It's okay.
9, but still not much better. 9 points.
And the other three starters combined because Rashawn Holmes had a goose egg. So
we're going to talk about him later. But if you're a big Rashawn Holmes fan, I hope that giant pile of crow you're eating tastes delicious because he looked as bad as advertised. So it's like when you go through this problems, damn it. ESPN loves these autoplay ads. When I have up their box score, it mutes me. I don't know where you start with this game. I really don't know where the defense is bad, but the defense has been bad. And so it's like inserting Rashawn Holmes or Dwight Powell in place of Lively doesn't help anything.
Yeah. I mean, does it show? I mean, maybe the Maverick season can be summed up by how much they need a 19-year-old rookie starting center to stabilize things, which is one thing. The other thing is, this team still has a lot of Luka, Kyrie, Powell, Tim Hardaway Jr. We know that those guys aren't always tip-top defenders. Just going to say that as nicely as I can, just to not piss anyone off because, Luka has certainly given some effort during some certain stretches, but let's just leave it at that. I think what is really weird about this team and this season is that the guys that they're paying to play defense, Grant Williams, Derek Jones Jr., Dante Exum, Josh Green, they've had some moments, but they've been way more inconsistent on the defensive end of the floor than I think even I expected. And a lot of it just seems like I don't know what they're trying to do on defense. I mean, it just seems like possession to possession, you see guys pointing at each other and the other team scoring layups.
Well, there was a possession, and I'm going to do the thing where I pick on Josh Green again, but I'm sorry.
He was bad. Yeah, I mean, he was really bad tonight. So
there was a help possession where Paul George, again, like the Dallas Mavericks made the decision tonight to allow Paul George to get to the rim. Like there were so many chances where Dwight Powell, Josh Green, or someone else faked help at Paul George only for him to just go right the fuck past. And again, I'm picking on Green, but Green is emblematic of the situation. There was a play where it was in the second quarter, I think, where Paul George is dribbling from the right wing. I can't remember who was guarding him. I'm pretty sure it was Derek Jones Jr. And Green, who is over on the left, he is facing the right wing. So he's out there. It's towards the top of the screen from the TV that where you're looking at on the television. And Green takes a hard step at Paul George. A really hard step, like almost to the point to where I think you and I in a lot of games would say, wow, he's really over helping. He forces Paul George to do nothing. Paul George doesn't give a shit that Josh Green is there and just goes right past both guys for a layup. Mm-hmm. And it, like, when you watch those sorts of plays, this goes back to the question that we asked 2 podcasts ago. What is the team's defensive What are they trying to achieve with their defense?
I don't know.
What are the principles?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, their principles at this point are allowing so many points in the paint that it makes you like reconsider your priors as to what you know about defense as a basketball fan.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like, are they a switching defense? No. Are they, an aggressive trapping pick and roll defense? No. Like, I just don't know where to start. And it's like so often you just see guys doubling when they shouldn't, or like rotating when they shouldn't, or they think there's going to be like, how many times have you seen a help defender kind of like point like at a player thinking like, hey, you're going to go pick that guy up or you're going to rotate over the spot and no one moves and there's an open layup. I mean, that happened routinely tonight. It's happened a lot the last few weeks. Like, I just don't know. I don't know what they want to do. And I understand that the personnel isn't great. You've got a lot of one-way players on your roster. So it's going to be hard to make a defense first team, but they don't even need to be defense first. They just need to be average, and they will be, with this offense, they will get near 45, somewhere to 45, 50 wins if they just play, 15th best defense in the NBA. That shouldn't be that high.
Yeah, and I still think that's true. I still think that's true because we had really penciled in this November schedule as one of the tough points, and they're going to close November. I mean, they still got a few games left, but they're going to close November in a pretty good spot. Like, we had hoped for kind of 500. That was honestly what we talked about back in kind of August. But there was just so many weird points in this game, and it starts with the defense, but then the offense was like totally funky and weird. And I think now is where I sort of broached really the enormous elephant in the room that I think I was only kind of listening at points, but I think even the Mavericks broadcast talked about this a little bit. But we got to talk about the fact that these guys simply don't look good on any NBA after a night where they are clearly staying in a fun NBA city. Like,
yeah, they spent 2 nights in New Orleans, 2 nights in LA, and those are their 2 worst losses.
So we can't we shouldn't say any more than, that's really interesting. But unless you're a child, that has to cross your mind. It just has to. Like, what are they doing? They all looked terrible to start that game. And I'm so like, guys, you're not good enough to go do that on a night in, night out basis. This isn't, nobody is Michael Jordan and it's 1995. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's not fun. I don't know what else to say to that other than it just.
But that then bakes into like the other things that we saw tonight, where I'm watching this in the comments of the show right now, where it's like the Mavericks have a whole lot bigger problems than effort. I don't disagree, but effort is one of those things that you can control.
Yeah, they can fix that.
Yes. And
they can't fix how tall everyone is on the roster right now.
And they didn't have a lot of effort when the game started, And so it kind of rolled downhill from there. I mean, they were out of it in the first quarter. This was an awful game to slog through because they gave you just a little bit of hope. And it's a brutal thing because it's like there are times like there was, one of the things that really chapped my ass this game was the Tim Hardaway, I'm going to dribble for 20 seconds possession. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like
I feel like he had more than one of those.
He had like 4 of them. And one of them, I remember at least 2 where he got the rebound and just called his own number from the rebound. And like that big time Tim, no. Like there's data on Tim and dribbles. Like the more he dribbles, the worse he shoots.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why I did appreciate a little bit Kyrie in the third quarter when Luka wasn't on the floor. Finally, like we've been kind of begging him to just be like, hey, when you're on the floor without Luka, do not let Tim do this freelance stuff. And I thought he did a better job. But again, they were just down by too much where it didn't really matter.
Well, I think during this stretch, Kyrie's probably one of the few guys who you can say, all right, Kyrie's bringing it. Kyrie is bringing his effort. But what we're seeing also, like Kyrie had a trap ball turnover tonight. I don't remember ever seeing that before. Like Kyrie Irving getting trapped and called for a turnover.
Oh yeah, he traveled while he was.
Yeah, and I just
stuck in the baseline.
But tonight was a pretty solid reminder that Kyrie is about 6'2" and 175 pounds. Like, there's just certain nights where it doesn't matter how brilliant he is still smaller in stature and cannot be expected to be a Superman and save the team from themselves.
Right. Yeah. And there was a possession. I mean, just kind of a little segue into the defense. I watched it just now because it really stuck out in my mind. Funny enough, the Clippers missed a shot, which kind of goes to show this game. Like this could have been like, if the Clippers made an average number of jump shots, you can argue this for the Mavericks too, but if the Clippers made an average number of their jump shots, they would have won this game by 30. It's a possession in the third quarter. Kawhi's posting up against Tim Hardaway Jr., so obviously bad. He gets the ball. Harden's the one who enters it into Kawhi, so he's the closest to Kawhi with the ball. And Kyrie's guarding Harden. As soon as he dumps it into Kawhi in the post, Kyrie goes to double Kawhi. So Harden's one pass away open above the three-point line because of the way the Clippers are spaced. There isn't really anyone to rotate over. So Paul George is curling. He catches the ball at the free throw line, and Grant Williams is behind him because Grant Williams gets stuck on a screen, which appears to be like every Dallas Mavericks perimeter player right now. And he immediately passes it to Harden, who's open for a three at the top of the wing, top of the key, above the break three. And like, it's emblematic of the Mavericks defense. So both Kyrie and Grant Williams close on James Harden. And like, you've got another wide open player, Paul George, who kind of floats to the 3-point line. Grant goes from Harden and instead of covering, getting back to Paul George, who's open, he thinks Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to leave Kawhi. And so now Grant's going to Kawhi and Tim's there. So there's again 2 on the ball and Paul George misses a wide open 3. It's really, I'm butchering it.
No, I remember this possession because it was like they got saved by the lack of Clipper shot making, not because of anything they did defensively.
No, and it was just like the way this team plays defense, it's like they've never played together, which, to be fair, this is the biggest roster shakeup they've had. So, I mean, you can give them some slack there. But they just have no idea what they're doing on defense. Like, I don't think they know what the rotations are. I don't think they know, like, when they want to double and when they don't. Like, it's a comedy of errors on the defensive end. And it all seems to stem from, like, yes, they're going to get scored on in the paint and bully balled a lot because of their physical disadvantages a lot of nights. But this isn't a physical. This is mental. Like, they just need to if they can get on the same page a little bit in terms of how they want to rotate, that will clean up a lot. Like, they're never going to fix the paint stuff because they're just too small as a team. But they got to clean up this communication stuff because this off-ball communication stuff is just absolutely killer. But that's the stuff that theoretically should be fixable in film room and practice.
And that goes back to elements of, and I meant to pull this up. I swear I had this. That goes back to what I've talked about, mentioned briefly, but I do, not to make excuses for them. I kick the shit out of the Mavericks. They frustrate me. But I do think there's something to the fact that they've played 10 road games so far. So how much film are you getting? You're getting no practice. Like, you're getting shoot around. Out of their 16 games, they played 10 on the road. They're 6-4.
I mean, hell, they've played 2 games in 6 days. Yeah. You'd think there'd be some film sessions then, and they have not looked great these last 2 games.
You'd think.
I know there was a holiday, but
I'm trying not to do the I'm mad at Jason Kidd thing because I honestly, it doesn't matter. Kid's not going anywhere. I got some messages about somebody pointing out to me how frustrated Luka looks in game with some of the coaching stuff. And I'm like, honestly, I think we overrate in-game interactions. These guys spend all this time together off the floor and everybody's in a good, so it's like, I just don't know how to talk about it. So I'm probably going to keep my mouth shut.
It's going to be one of those things where we just don't, if it happens, then we'll react to it. But until then we have to assume it's a
non-thing and it is what it is. Where is it going?
You want to take it? You want to tell people to?
I do. You're right. Right. I've lost my thread in the own show. Folks, if you're watching on the YouTube and if you're listening on the podcast the next day, if you could please do me a favor and consider subscribing to the show. Now, if you're listening, you can, subscribe via whatever channel you get your podcast from. If you're watching on YouTube, you could roll down and hit the like button on this particular video. You can also hit the subscribe button. Also, you could consider leaving a comment when this video is done. I really like seeing all those. I'm trying to answer them. The last couple of days have been busy. But, Josh and I are inching towards our in-season goal of 5,000. We crashed 2,000 couple games ago. So it's a little bit at a time. These losses, it's a little harder after losses. But I wanted to make my pitch. And then I think we can, circle back here to sort of everything else.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. One of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy and streamlined so I can spend more time on the rest of my business. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
The size thing is tough. Like, this is one of and I've been oddly, like, I've sort of about faced on the Dwight Powell of it all because I think he takes a lot of heat. But then tonight in his backup 17 minutes, he was awful. He had no shot attempts. He had 2 rebounds in 15 minutes. It's just he's woefully out of place.
Yeah,
and
the best the team looked was when they played Grant at the 5, Exum. Like the 2 biggest players were Grant and Exum. But even then, I mean, it didn't do enough to shave off the lead.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we got 6 minutes of Omax who just flailed. I mean, flailed to the point of, like, he somehow heaved 2 shots in 2 minutes, both 3-pointers. Neither one went in. Like, one was over the rim. And folks that want him to play more, I get it, just because he's a big body. But if you're doing stuff like that, kid's not going to play you. Like, you have to contribute statistically. And he's just kind of out there getting cardio. I mean, Josh Green had a total regression game for where he'd been coming from. That one's pretty brutal. Not sure what to do about that at all. I mean, yeah, there's like the simplest solution is to look at the box score and go, oh, well, these Mavericks just missed a lot of shots. And
well, they missed a lot of shots, but also, I mean, look at the role player shot attempts. I mean, the Mavericks shot 38 3-pointers, and Kyrie and Luka were responsible for 15 of them, and then another 9 from Hardaway. So those 3 guys basically shot all your 3-pointers. Like, Grant Williams was 1 of 2, Derrick Jones Jr. 1 of 3. 2 of 5 isn't terrible percentage, but the 5 is not good. And I think our Stafford Jack has been tweeting about, like, the Clippers just kind of stayed home and kind of let Kyrie and Luka do what they wanted because they didn't want that Mavericks drive and kick machine to get revved up, because the Mavericks, when they get going, like, when that starts rolling, it feels like kind of like a boulder rolling downhill and you can't really stop it. So they were like, all right, well, these guys aren't going to burn us if we stick to them because we know that they're not going to drive past us because they're, Grant and Jones and some of these other role players they're basically just spot up guys. So they weren't scared of those guys burning them off the dribble. So they were like, hey, if Kyrie and Luka shoot a bunch of shots from the floater area, kind of near the rim, mid-range, we'll take that as long as, like, Jones isn't getting 6 wide open threes and Williams is getting 8 wide open threes, because they know those guys aren't going to burn them any other way. And they kind of were proven right tonight. I mean, this is the kind of blueprint of a game where, like, if if Kyrie and Luka aren't 100% nails, and you saw that Luka was pretty good, but he wasn't Luka like MVP, like gonna win this game by myself, Luka. And Kyrie was pretty good, but he wasn't, electric Kyrie for his full time, which is fine. These guys shouldn't be expected to be like that every game, but they basically bet, they're like, we don't think these two guys are gonna score 50 each, and we're just gonna live with the results.
I mean, it's frankly a good bet.
Yeah, I'm surprised more teams don't do it more often. To be honest.
Well, I mean, it's when somebody gets going, it's kind of hard. Like it's human nature. I think it was Terrence Mann against Utah several years ago, where all of a sudden Terrence Mann just starts nailing threes to help bury the Jazz. Like that's what the Mavericks are relying on. I'm tempted to just sort of, pull the Luka Doncic who did this several games ago, where he's like, people forget that the NBA season is long. I'm not forgetting the season is long.
I mean, they're
when they don't compete, that part hurts. That's the part that really hurts me.
Yeah, and I think it's also, I mean, they are a LeBron James senior moment in the last 1 minute of that game against the Lakers from being on a 4-game losing
God,
streak.
I wanted to talk about that game.
I know you did. You really did. I mean,
that's the game where you ask what Jason Kidd is doing, because there was just like that was a bad Kidd game.
Yes, it was for sure. But yeah, I think that's why this loss feels a little worse, because really we haven't seen this team play well in their game at Washington on November 15th. That was the last time they kind of looked good from start to finish, and even then, they got blown out by New Orleans before that. So they're just on a little bit of a losing run. So this game in isolation, you can kind of wash away and be like, they'll make some shots, but it's like, if LeBron doesn't throw away the game in the final minute on Wednesday, they're on a 4-game losing streak, and they would be 9-7 right now, which is
still fine.
Was still fine, but they started 8-2.
There's at that point the questions are much louder, and I think a loss like this, you just sort of chalk it up and you go home. Maybe there's a little bit of schedule analysis to be done. You wonder how long Lively is out.
That hurts.
It does hurt. It does hurt. But there's also the fact that the way Lively went down, he didn't, he did the thing. Anybody that's played kind of higher level competitive sports, there's a pretty good chance you've had a really frightening injury thing happen to you just because sports are contact sports. And what happened to Lively was really scary. I mean, he's just so big. And he's so young, and he fell flat on his back. Like his left heel caught the ground. That was something else to watch. So it's the fact that he told Mark Stein after the game that he felt okay. Like, talk about, that's where it's just like the most hilarious reminder that he's a 19-year-old kid. He's like, yeah, it was really scary, but I'm okay. Like, ugh.
Yeah, and back stuff. I mean, you can have a soliloquy on how back stuff is stuff you do not want to mess with. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
they need to make sure he's 100% right.
Well, and then he like, I have been clipped like that and came down on my shoulders. And I still have certain pain in my elbows from where I caught myself. Like I slammed both elbows in the hardwood when I was obviously not that high because I'm 6'2", but I'm still big. And I can't imagine like the fact that he came down level. The Maverick, because if he would have come down on one side more than the other, oh my God, because like he barely caught the left heel, and that was why he wasn't walking. Like he didn't put any weight on his left leg. I mean, the Mavericks really kind of got lucky on that one. I was something else.
Yeah,
man, just we'll see where the Mavericks go with this. I'm a little disappointed in the overall sense that we went from being so happy to already there's a lot of like just sort of drudgery involved with this team. And I don't know how you fix that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is people just want their preseason takes to be proven right. I mean, there were some people that thought this team was going to stink, and they just want the team to stink to prove that they were right when they said the team is going to stink.
Sure.
And vice versa. People that thought the team was going to be good want, when they were 8-2, that's just the nature of doing what we do. But yeah, otherwise, in terms of like the on the court stuff, I don't know. The schedule, I mean, they're gifted 2 Memphis games in the next couple of weeks, which is going to help. Playing Houston and Oklahoma City, also sandwiched between that, is not going to be fun for them with the way those two teams are playing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they need to get Lively back as soon as possible, but I'm just curious to see maybe how they get through December and when the schedule starts evening out, because, you know, I mean, the first 10 or 12 games was just outrageous in terms of their schedule luck, in terms of not only were they playing bad teams, but they're also playing bad teams when they were playing poorly, which helps. So, like,
Right.
you know, I mean, they were not gonna. I mean, what is 8-2 over the course of a full season? Like, they were not going to do that.
Right.
For
Not a
anyone.
thing.
Yeah. So, you know, it's one of those things where you have to figure out what's real and what's not, because I mean, it's kind of like a tale of two teams right now, because they had the hot start 8-2 and now they've kind of backslid. And it's like, okay, is the real team the team in the first 10 games, or is it the team in the last 6? And I would have to do a little bit more deep diving to look into that. But the answer, which is like the safe cop out answer, is probably just like, it's probably just a little bit in the middle, where they're probably a little bit of that really good team that started hot in the first 10 games, but they're also probably a little bit of this team that's been slumping, which still would probably be a successful season. But yeah, it's tough.
Did Luka get a tech tonight?
No, he did not.
That's a win.
Congratulations.
That's a win. I mean, considering the reffing crew, I thought he was going to get thrown out. And like, Josh and I don't really talk about refs very much. We don't talk about refs very much because we don't care. I think both of us sort of come from the school of thought where we're older. We've seen what happened to the Mavericks in the 2000s, which felt much worse than anything that has happened to these Mavericks. And number 2, Luka's kind of made his own bed to a degree. And tonight was another game where I felt like the Mavericks got the legacy Luka whistle. And that trickled down, but it's not why they lost. It certainly isn't why they lost. It's just a thing where I'm not sure how, you know, how to deal with it. I really wish that Kyrie could get a fucking foul call to save his life. Like, that dude gets hammered and just gets nothing.
He's got Monte Ellis disease.
He's so acrobatic that they don't call it.
Well, acrobatic, and he also tries to shoot shots.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't try to contort and foul bait, you know.
No.
He just, when he goes to the paint, he's trying to make the shot, not just get to the free throw line. And that's, unfortunately, refs aren't going to call that.
Yeah. I felt like that was kind of worth addressing. Do you want to talk about the last thing that I mentioned? I mentioned to you in Slack kind of during the thing. I want to just briefly touch on it.
I'm trying to figure out how much I want to tiptoe around.
I know. Let's just talk. Let's just say what happened.
Okay.
Can explain what happened to the team to everybody who's listening.
Okay. We're talking about the James Harden thing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know when it was. I think it was the first half. But kind of unprompted, Mavericks play-by-play commentator Derek Harper asked play-by-play man Mark Followell, do you think James Harden still loves basketball or loves to play the game? And it was, like I said, it was unprompted. I don't even know if Harden had a bad play that spurred it.
He had a kind of a quiet first half.
He definitely did. I couldn't remember if he took a really bad shot or something, and maybe that spurred it on. But yeah, which on its face is maybe a little spicy for local NBA TV broadcasts, which try to keep their broadcasts pretty, straight and narrow down the middle, or obviously they're going to be biased toward the home team. They're the home, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you don't usually see that type of maybe call out of an opposing player because they're trying to keep it cordial, league partners, they're representatives of the team, etc. So that kind of raised my eyebrow. Followell kind of, I think, had some diplomatic answers about it, and then Harper kind of went back to it and then was talking about it more, kind of trying to maybe prove his point, because I think that's what he was trying to argue.
Which makes you, at that point, it becomes very clear that Harper was not around during Brian Damaris's random,
that's
funny,
the thing.
Off, totally bizarre, mostly correct rant about James Harden before the first Clipper game, which was 2 weeks ago, to the point to where, and he had to apologize for that. I don't know why, but somebody made him apologize. And so the fact that he did apologize meant that there was a edict from someone somewhere basically being like, don't do that. Don't do that. Which Harp's not been around. We don't know why. None of our business. Harp clearly didn't get that memo. And it was just so weird to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if this was just the only thing, we probably wouldn't know. But coming off the Brian Damaris fiasco where that happened, he had to apologize. They pulled the clip. It was just like, it just made me arch my eyebrow a little bit because, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I mostly watch the Mavericks. I'm not super tuned in to opposing teams' broadcasts. You are a little bit better than me because, you didn't live in DFW for so long. So you didn't get to listen to the Mavericks broadcasts. But like, I would assume that most local team broadcasts aren't discussing players like that usually, but I could be wrong. I'm not listening.
I mean, they get pretty weird. I get a lot of
you can answer this better than me.
But every time it happens, it doesn't feel right. And it's just, it feels like wrestling commentary. And so again, we don't want to talk about this for too long. It's just weird to have it happen twice in like less than 2 weeks from an organization that is by and large got this stuff buttoned down. I bet we'll never hear it again the rest of the season. Seriously mean that. Because Harp is actually pretty great about giving other teams' players praise.
Yeah, especially like he's one of those, especially when you consider some of his other players from that era that are doing media jobs. He's definitely more complimentary of the modern game than a lot of his contemporaries. That's for sure. Which also made it stick out a little bit more.
It was odd. And I made Josh bring it up because I'm like, all right, we didn't discuss the first one because you and I didn't want to. Because frankly, we thought it was in bad taste at the time. Just because like it's not like the Mavericks have this sterling reputation among players as a place you want to come play. So to have like a quasi team official being like, this dude fucking sucks, which is so weird.
Which is so funny because you were kind of like, he's not wrong, but
yeah, everybody was. That's why it hit. But it was just like, what's this? Who's this guy? It's great. Yeah. It'd be like if I did it. It's just like no one, it doesn't.
Well, no, it would be like not if you did it because you could do it because you're not. Sure. You're not on TV. Like we're in our little corner that we've carved out. But yeah.
Well, we get another night off, 2 nights off again. I don't think the Mavericks play till Tuesday.
I don't think so either.
So maybe they'll figure something out. I mean, I don't know. We're not at 10-6. Like they could keep playing at a 10-6 pace the rest of the season. I'd be thrilled.
Yeah. I mean, if they played 500, or if they finished 4 games above 500, I mean, that would be a successful season. I mean, it really would, right?
Yeah, I mean, 6 games right now. It's like, what do we?
Oh, yeah.
So I just, no, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Only 4 games. I can't do math.
But yeah, I mean, that would be, what would that be? That would be like, 40, 45, 46 wins or whatever.
I'd be thrilled with it. I'd be thrilled with it. There's elements of this that I want them to clean up. I do get, I hate the late night of it all. I did want to get together and talk. I'm not going to host a Mavs group therapy because it's just, the baby's going to, I think what time is it? 12:45. I think my baby shift window starts in about an hour. So I don't want to get caught on the mic if we're doing this, but we'll be back on Tuesday. We're gonna try to keep pushing. The bitch of this, guys, is like when it becomes a slog with the Mavericks, it also becomes a slog for us. So it's like if they're gonna lose and it would be a close game, we have more to talk about. But instead, this game is just like it's just gross. And hopefully we can wash our hands of it and move on. You got anything else?
No, I think that's about it.
All right, team.
It's late.
It is late. This has been Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. We had fun talking basketball with you guys. We'll be back Tuesday. Everybody enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend if you're here in the United States. And, we're cruising towards December. Everybody be good. Have a great night and go Mavs.